Members, please be upstanding.
Start. Good. Thank you. Please be seated. Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Good evening, members. I'd like to start off with the web introduction. The chairman, I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet or filmed and will be capable of repeated viewing or another use by such third parties. If you're seated in the lower public seating area, it's likely that the recording cameras will capture your image, and this will result in the possibility that your image will become part of the broadcast. This may infringe your human and data protection rights, and if you wish to avoid this, you should move to the upper public gallery. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Darshan Sangh, and I shall be chairing tonight's meeting, full council meeting. Today is 19th of December 2023. To help me with the meeting tonight, I have on my right my Vice Chairman, Councillor Les Burrows, who shall be assisting with if anybody's wishing to speak tonight, to raise your hand, make sure that Councillor Burrows can see you so he can note your name down. I shall be a voting chairman tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and with that, I'd like to move on to item number 2, apologies for absence. Is it Laura? Over to you. Thank you.
Chairman, the apologies for absence have been received from Councillors Judy and Bob Jennings, Councillor Lyon, Mead, Rizvi, Brooks and Hadley. And there have also been apologies for lateness from Councillor Murray and Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Laura. And members, any off the floor would like to? Councillor Chris Pond.
Didn't entirely hear the announcement, but I think I have to add Councillor Brooks and Councillor Jogia to that.
Councillor Heath.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Babbitt is either going to be late or on Zoom.
Thank you, Councillor Heath. And Councillor Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, apologies for lateness for Councillor McIver.
Thank you. If there's no more apologies for absence, item number 3 is declarations of interest, members. Councillor Bassett.
Thank you, Chairman. Just in case, I'd like to declare a possible pecuniary interest in item 13A, as obviously it concerns Qualis, which I'm a non-executive director of.
Thank you, Councillor Bassett. Councillor Whitehouse.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, on the supplementary item, I live close to the site under discussion, but I regard it as a non-pecuniary interest. I'll be staying and voting.
Thank you, Councillor White. Councillor Kaufman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Same declaration as Councillor Bassett, re Qualis and the supplementary agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, I also have a personal interest on item number 11. I know Mrs. Tina Finn in a personal capacity. However, I shall be staying for that item. Item number 4 is minutes on your pages 6 to 75 for approval. So can I have your consent? Councillor Janet Whitehouse.
Thank you, Chairman. I wish to express concern at the way in which the item questions from members is minuted under the new minutes. We are told that members and members of the public need to look at a YouTube recording in order to find out what our questions were and what the answers were. And I don't think that's acceptable. It's a really important part of the meeting for those of us who are backbench members. And minutes are kept for a long time. I don't know how long a YouTube recording is kept. But I just don't think this is an acceptable way. I know that democratic services are very hard-pressed, they're very short-staffed. But it is an important part of the agenda, and I don't know how we can change it, but I would make a request that is reviewed and that minutes are written in the way they were, that the full question is put and the answer. It doesn't have to have a lot of discussion, but that is recorded in print in the traditional way. Thank you, Ma'am.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehouse. Mr. Small? Would you like to comment on that?
I think, just to say that I think that's been noted. The portfolio holder for Councillor Sam Kane might have a comment, maybe.
Councillor Sam Kane?
No particular comment at this time, Chairman, but I've just made a note of that and we will discuss it.
Thank you. Can I have agreement to sign off the 4 meetings that we've had so far? Agreed. Thank you. Okay, item number 5 is announcements, and I would like to share with you, as Chairman, sit here and say what a busy time they have, as Chairman we have. But believe you me, I know that to be so true. So since last we met in October, I've attended over 20 events, from the King's Green canopy tree planting in Thaden Boys by the Corporation of London to our wonderful youth conference that was held here at the civic offices. Unfortunately, just after our last council meeting, a most tragic event occurred in the Middle East and many innocent lives have been lost. Here at the civic offices, we came together as one community to host a candlelit vigil to support those who have suffered and for the hope of peace soon in that region. Along with other councillors from around the district on Remembrance Sunday, I was honoured to lay a wreath in Chigwell and take part in the wreath laying and parade in Epping, which was attended by many local community groups, schools and clubs. We've also celebrated Diwali for the first time and the Hindu New Year, the menorah lighting in Epping and Chigwell, and also the Christmas and Nativity at my chosen charity, which I hope all members do know which that is. That's Chigwell Riding Trust in Chigwell. Members, of course, we have yet to celebrate our own civic carol service, which shall be taking place this week on Thursday at St Mary's Church in Chigwell at 7 p.m. And I do hope that you will be able to join me there. One event I must make special reference to was the Christmas memory train between Ongar and North Weald for district residents living with dementia and mild cognitive impairment. This was a fantastic event made possible by the Epping Open Gardens, Epping and Ongar Railway, and our community culture and wellbeing team. So thank you to each and everyone involved in making that event so special for those attending. It truly evoked the spirit of Christmas, and I hope that we can continue the spirit of Christmas today while we conduct the business of the day. Item number 6 are public questions that have been submitted to our officers. Can I ask Mr. Small? Or sorry, can I just say, members, you may have noticed that our Chief Executive and also Gary, Mr. Woodall's not here with us, and Nigel Richardson. They've managed to contract COVID, unfortunately, and we wish them well. But they are here on our screens. So, Laura?
I'm going to ask Mr. Small if he can.
Mr. Small, okay. Mr. Small, please.
So thank you, Chair. We have 5 questions this evening from members of the public. The first question is from Catherine Foy. Would you like to ask your question, please?
Can I remind those that invited to speak, if you could turn the mic on and then turn it off once you've read out your question. So where is Mrs. Foy?
Chairman, my daughter's here tonight, but she's not feeling great, a bit like your colleagues. If it's okay with you, sir, could I read her question out on her behalf?
I wish her well. Hope she gets well. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, yeah, if you could, that's fine to ask your question. And if you could stand, sorry.
Sure. A little preamble. For 7 years, I've been saving every spare penny towards a deposit so I can get on the housing ladder. However, it's always been just outside my reach. Many of my friends are in a similar position. For 2 years, we've had our eye on one of the homes to be built next door here. They're nearly ready, so we're told. In my opinion, the planning officer's report is very confusing to me. and it's biased as it misses important information for councillors to make a sound judgment. For example, it does not mention a single word about financial or social cost to the district for losing valuable key workers like me and many others because we can't find an affordable property to live in an area that we were born in. So, Chairman, my question is, why are you even contemplating to vote tonight at such very short notice to reduce the Condie site next door from 25% to 0%? And I would add, she doesn't want me to say this, not too long ago, you clapped every Thursday night for us, NHS workers and others. Please do the right thing tonight, show your caring side, and perhaps we'll give you all a big clap too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Foy. Can I invite Cabinet Portfolio Holder Ken Williamson? Yeah, Ken Williamson. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr Foy, on behalf of your daughter. In the run-up to Christmas, the meeting calendar is very congested, and the next available council meeting after tonight is the budget setting meeting, the council in February. Also, any delay could affect future viability of the schemes, so therefore the decision was taken to deal with this application at tonight's meeting. I think that answers your question, and can I just say we're not in it for the claps necessarily. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Can I move on to the next question? Is that going to be from yourself?
Catherine Foy again.
From Mr Foy.
This is much shorter.
On behalf of Catherine.
Yes. To the Chairman. Why, according to the Carter-Jonas August report, has it been assumed, and there's plenty of assumptions going on in there, that the loan repayment costs have been based on such a high rate of 7.5%, when even I, hopefully, can get a mortgage at a much lower rate? Can we have a revised figures based on the reduction in interest rates and the significantly slowing down of inflation since August?
Thank you very much for asking that question. Can I invite the Cabinet Portfolio Councillor Williamson to come back in? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the second question. The viability assessment is undertaken following specific guidance from both the National Planning Policy Framework, Planning Policy Guidance, and also the RICS. The 7.5% is identified on page 244 as an all-in rate. These are commercial lending arrangements which include the lending rate, a margin on this rate plus commitment arrangement and exit fees. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry, Mrs. Catherine Foy, would you like to ask a supplementary question, or should we move on to... Okay, in which case, thank you. Mr. Graham Foy, your question, please.
Chairman, you have used your apparent powers to override the Constitution and the usual long-established timelines for Epping Forest District Council to alert the public about agenda items. Last week's DDMC ended with the final recorded remarks that it would be deferred to full council in February. This seemed reasonable by everyone I spoke to. So apart from the huge quality reports that we're trying to read, the requested from the planning officer, the Epping Forest District Council independent consultants' reports have still not yet been made available for public scrutiny or comparison. So the question is, why then did you insist on Epping Forest did not do all it could to alert the public about this bringing forward? Why was there no announcement at all made on your usual Epping Forest District Council daily news page? And nor was there any alert on the Epping Forest District Council social media Facebook to inform residents of this very important issue with your decision that it's been switched from the Wednesday to tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Foy. Can I invite Councillor Paul Kesker to respond to that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Under the Local Government Act 1972, the Chairman has the authority to permit late items of business to be added to an agenda if he is satisfied for the reasons for doing so. This is a statutory authority, so it is not explicitly stated in the Constitution, and the Constitution has not been overridden. It is not common practice to issue specific news alerts whenever an item is referred from one committee to another. However, the item referred from DDMC to full council does appear on the website in the usual way as a supplementary item to the agenda. As such, automated alerts will have been received by a number of other organisations and local media where it has also featured. Thank you.
Councillor Keska, thank you very much. Mr Foy, your next question.
That may be what the rules are, but lots of people that I know watched either live or...
Mr Foy, could we go to your next question and then maybe you have a supplementary?
I thought I thought I had a supplementary.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Second question to you, Chairman. Regarding the St John's Road site, which was reduced from 40%, then 25%, and now the proposal tonight is to reduce it to 17%. Can we be given a fuller explanation, because it's not referenced in the Officer's 6-page report, perhaps by Qualis, of its intention to place all the affordable homes in just one block? I think it's E. Surely, ideally, affordable homes should be dotted around the estate to prevent stigmatisation and to promote social integration for all of our residents.
Thank you, Mr Foy. Can I now invite Councillor Ken Williamson to respond to that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the question. To be absolutely clear, St John's was always going to be 34%, as there's a vacant building credit calculation. It was never going to be 40%. In line with conversations with other registered providers, the discussions with Epping Forest District Council centred on the efficiency and practicality of managing and operating the blocks of affordable homes. It is recognised by all that it is best achieved by them all being in one block. This block is in the heart of the scheme, and all units are tenure blind, so are unrecognisable in design terms to the open market housing.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Mr Foy, do you have any supplementary question?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I now invite Ms Selina Jeffco to ask her question, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Section 4, affordable housing of the S106 agreements signed on the 22nd of February 2022 require that the owner, in this case Qualis, covenants that not less than 12 months prior to the anticipated completion of the development to commence negotiation for the transfer of the affordable housing units to a registered provider of social housing and to give the Council notice of such commencement of negotiation. What date did the Council receive these notices for the Condor and St John's site, and who is the registered provider of social housing in each case? And can the Council then also confirm what information was shared by Epping Forest District Council and the Council's affordable housing officer with BPS, who I understand are still the Council's own independent assessor, when they were reviewing the 4 Carter-Jonas viability assessments, so the 2 original and the 2 revised, regarding the registered provider of social housing? Thank you. Agreed contributions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Jeffco. Can I invite Councillor John Phillip to respond to that, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. We have no record of receiving a notice under the Affordable Housing Section 4 of the Section 106 Agreement for the Civic Offices / Condor site. As referenced in the question, this notification is required 12 months prior to the anticipated completion of the development. But if tonight the deed of variation was to remove the affordable housing obligation from the site, and if that's approved, this requirement will also be removed. We would not have expected yet to receive one for St John's, as the site is clearly not 12 months away from completion. In respect of interaction with selected RPSHs, this has not occurred, and we hold no information regarding discussions with an RPSH. As it stands, no affordable housing is proposed for Condor, and that is why no notice has been served. But Qualis have informed me that they've been in dialogue with a number of registered providers in relation to St John's, and they have an informal offer from Epping Forest District Council as one of those registered providers. Confirmation of the planning position allows Qualis to formalise this and move to contract. St John's is still more than 12 months away from completion, so there's plenty of time left to serve any required notices.
Councillor Phillip, thank you. Sorry, Mrs Jeffcoat, would you like to have a supplementary?
Yes, please. Firstly, no record was submitted 12 months ago for Condor. Can the council explain...
Mrs Jeffcoat, sorry, can I just interrupt?
Yeah.
You need to ask a question based on the response that Councillor Phillip has given.
The response was that no record was submitted. What I am now asking is why for Condor 12 months ago when it should have been. What I'm going to ask now is why a company wholly owned by Epping Forest District Council was allowed to evade its 106 commitments in that way by not supplying that paperwork. And also, with regard to St John's, we are told that it is not yet ready. There is not the time at the moment, it's not 12 months away. However, Qualis are advertising these for sale and occupation from next summer, which is only 6 months away. So again, why is the council failing?
Could you stand, please? Sorry.
Why is the council failing to ensure that their owned company is not complying with the most basic conditions of the Section 106 agreements that were issued?
Thank you. I know there's two questions you just asked. So, Councillor Phillip, would you like to respond? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Sorry, Councillor Phillip. Would you please turn your mic? Thank you, Councillor Phillip.
To address those questions one by one. Firstly, the date of sale of properties is not completion of a site. Condor is well underway. It is not yet completed, nor yet imminently completed. The submission of the change to the Section 106, which removed all affordable housing, was a number of months ago. That covers the period that we're looking at. And the same argument applies to St John's. It's on completion, not completion of individual properties, but 12 months before completion. That hasn't come yet. We wouldn't expect that to be there. The planning department, which I don't now represent, is very good at making sure that our developers keep to the terms of their Section 106, and we look at that for all developers, not just Qualis.
Thank you, Councillor Phillip. Okay, that concludes item number 6, questions from public questions. Item number 7 is questions by members under notice. Mr. Small, have we got any questions?
No further questions.
No, okay. That's nice and easy. We now move on to item number 8, report from the leader and the members of the cabinet, and this is on pages 76 to 110. So may I go to Councillor Chris Whitbread, leader of the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, since our last meeting, obviously I've enjoyed the many events that you've organised in relation to some of our different faith groups across the district, but most importantly I've attended a number of meetings with both parish councils and parish council surgeries. I've also met with neighbourhood watch teams across some of the different areas. We've also had a number of meetings with North Essex councils with regards to the aspirations for a devolution deal by Essex County Council and the future of district councils. Of course, at a very challenging time for us all, as we've heard over the budgets in recent weeks, but these meetings are ongoing and we're looking forward to working closely with our partners in the future.
Thank you, Leader. Any other members of the Cabinet? Councillor John Phillip.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to let members know that as planned and on schedule, last week I spent £110,000 of the government's money, giving it out to parish councils within the district in the rural areas. That was the allocation of the budget that we had for this financial year. The constraints are quite firm. The parish councils have to spend that money before the end of the financial year. So we're not going to be in a position to have to hand any money back to the government.
Thank you. Councillor Ken Williamson.
Thank you, Chair. Under my report, the Cuttersfield prosecution was due to be on the 16th of November. It was when we drafted the report initially. Just to inform everybody that there is a delay and a new date of the 11th of January has been set.
Thank you for the update. Councillor Sam Kane.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I just thought members would be interested to learn that our district is one of the highest owners of electric vehicles, and Epping Forest District Council are doing what they can to provide charging units. By the end of January, we'll have charging units installed in the Cornmill car park in Waltham Abbey, which will bring the total to 5 of our sites having electric chargers: Debden, Loughton, Ongar and Waltham Abbey by the end of January, a total of 14 charging stations. That will make us one of the top 3 authorities in Essex for provision of charging stations. So I just thought members like to know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kane. That's really good news to hear that. That just means that you can all wish for a new electric car on your Christmas card list moving forward next year. Any other Cabinet member? Councillor Bedford.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind members in my report that the North Wales Strategic Master Plan framework document is now out for consultation, and members have until 16th of January to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bedford. Any other Cabinet members wishing to speak? Update on their reports? If not, I will now move on to item number 10, motions. I believe we don't have any.
No motion.
No motions at all, which case we'll move swiftly on to item number 11. That's the report of the member remuneration. Sorry, I should go back. Item number 9, questions by members without notice. Apologies for that. Sorry, members without notice. So if you just bear with us, if you can get the attention of the Vice Chairman, we will take your as they come in. So. Okay. Okay, so in which case we'll go straight to Councillor Richard Bassett first, and then Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman.
Murray after.
This is a question to Councillor John Phillips. He just announced the Rural England Prosperity Fund, where £110,000 will go out to projects in the rural area. I'm just wondering at this time, I know there was lots of applications came through for that. Has he got any information as to who has been successful with their application?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Bassett. Yes, you're right. The applications were significantly oversubscribed. As I said, we've got £110,000 to give out. We had virtually £230,000 worth of requests from rural parishes. Just to remind members who may not remember too clearly, the Rural Prosperity Fund is specifically targeted at smaller areas. So our larger conurbations like Epping, Loughton, Waltham Abbey, etc., cannot apply for these. They are too big. It was a very difficult choice. I worked through all the applications. I read every single one of them. And I've tried to spread it across the district from a small amount to a large amount. The smallest was actually to Thaden Mount to refurbish their red telephone box, which they use as a community asset with things in it. We made a grant to Matching Parish Council for protection of their green, which is a very useful thing to do. We granted to Epping Upland Parish Council to extend their publicly owned cemetery. We also made a grant to Thaden Garnon for the repair of a historic roof. We made a grant to Budworth Hall in Ongar for the work that they're doing. And we also made a grant, and I'm sure this will be one that particularly pleases Councillor Bassett. We made a significant grant to the Nazing Cricket Club for their pavilion work, which is used for more than just the cricket club. It's actually used as a social place for the whole village.
Thank you, Councillor Phillip. Councillor Razia Sharif.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is, and I think this is probably to Councillor Phillip, if the Condor Road development is near completion and the costs were just over £6 million by the end of August, why are now the estimated costs another £9 million to completion when this development is almost there? Thank you.
Sorry, who would like to... Councillor Phillip, is that you?
Yes,
Yep.
it is, and it's not.
Okay, thank you.
Those are incorrect figures. It would have been useful to go through those when we talked at Cabinet last night with the detailed report from Qualis, which I don't have in front of me in terms of the monitoring report for the third quarter. We do have to remember there are significant differences between how you treat property and development in an accounting sense and in a report like that, and the difference between that, as Councillor Williamson has already highlighted, in terms of a viability appraisal, which has to follow the rules laid out by the government. So it's not worth trying to compress those two into the same thing.
Thank you, Councillor Phillip. Councillor Steve Murray, welcome to the Council. I just want to... Councillor Murray, did you have any declarations of interest? Because you've come in late.
I'm not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so you're next.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Given the fact that we might have areas that we disagree on later, I wanted to ask a question that hopefully there will be a degree of consensus. And this is to the Leader of Council, but I'm not absolutely sure whether we refer to him as Leader of Council now or Chancellor of Essex, but whichever title that he wants me to refer to, Councillor Quiswit. Would he agree with me that in the hustle and bustle of Christmas, it's probably an important time that we do stop and think about all the wonderful community groups we have across Epping Forest, all the many thousands of volunteers we have across Epping Forest that help to make our district such a wonderful place to live in.
Thank you. Is Councillor Whitbread?
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Murray. One of the few occasions that we actually agree with each other, the third sector within Epping Forest does wonderful work across the board, and our many volunteers and carers we should be thinking of at this time of year, and particularly what they deliver for people, particularly the vulnerable and those who are lonely or isolated. They do a wonderful job, and we really do support them in this council.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Can I go to Councillor Simon Heat, please?
Thank you, Chairman. This is for the planning portfolio holder. Given the recent acknowledgement that a prosecution document contained, let's put it euphemistically, falsehoods, what steps is he taking to make sure that this doesn't happen again?
Councillor Williamson. Thank you, Councillor Heat. Could you turn your mic off for me, please? Thank you.
I think I'm aware of the case that Councillor Heap is mentioning, and it is a long-running discussion on this one. There are always lessons to be learned in any form of business or council. We will take on board what has happened and try to take steps to ensure it doesn't happen again.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Councillor Deborah Barlow.
Thank you. I'd just like to go back to the Condor and the several questions I'd like to ask. One is for the planners. What's the total S106 contributions agreed in February 2022 for EFDC and ECC for the two sites? That's my first question.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Who would like to take that? Is that going to be Would that be Councillor Williamson?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the question. It is substantial. I don't have them to hand at the moment. I've seen figures of 800,000 and the like. There are substantial sums of Section 106 money coming from these developments.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Can we have Councillor John Whitehouse, please?
Thank you. I wanted to pick up with the leader, if I could, on what his comments about the emerging devolution deal. I mean, I think originally that was hoped to be finished by the autumn statement. I'm guessing from what he said that hasn't quite happened, but it'd be useful to know what the current timescale is, and in particular, what the key devolution wins for the area will be. And although it is probably at a late stage, if there's anything we can do to gain some more financial freedoms on things like the statutory advertising rules that were referred to at the last Over Scrutiny Committee, please argue for those to be included.
Thank you. Councillor White. Leader.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Whitehouse. Devolution package is making progress, but it wasn't announced in the autumn statement, as you quite correctly identified. Of course, the key areas around devolution are with skills and public transport, that type of thing. I know there's, as matters progress, we'll be quite happy to actually bring this to a scrutiny panel as well, so we can actually debate it more fully here. What I would say is I think, and it's the broader piece for me, particularly from a district council point of view, and the work that we're doing with other district councils and borough councils now, is building those partnerships and working relationships, because it's going to be so important to us in the future. We have really good working relationships with Colchester and Braintree and Harlow, and it's important that we foster those relationships as we move forward, particularly bearing in mind all the pressures that we all face today. And of course, going back to government, we're always lobbying for additional freedoms and flexibilities for ourselves as a local authority, and particularly at the upper tier. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. We've now got Councillor Chris Pond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a question for Housing PFH. There's reference in her report to the adding to the amenities on the Oakwood Hill estate in Milescroft Way in Loughton. And Milescroft Way was, of course, the piece of land that the previous deputy leader of the council wanted to convert into a car park for council staff working in the Oakwood Hill estate. I believe things have progressed on that area. The original suggestion was for a play area, provided Loughton Town Council took it over and maintained it. But I believe that's altered. Perhaps you could give us an update.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Pond. Just before Councillor Whitbread, I'm conscious that you're not well, Catherine. If you wanted to leave, it's entirely your choice. If you want to stay, you're welcome. Yeah? We just pause for a minute. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you for that. Councillor Holly Whitbread. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. And I'm afraid I'm going to have to go away and speak with officers on the full details of that scheme. But certainly we have moved away from the car park idea and are looking at improving the amenity on the Oakwood Hill estate. I know we had conversations in the summer, actually, Councillor Murray I met with on the estate, and looking at the community hall there and seeing how we best utilise it as a facility for the whole community and tenants on the estate. So I'll provide you with a fuller update on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whitbread. Councillor Lisa Morgan, you were on my list next.
Thank you. I've actually got two questions. The first one is about MDMOs. For those that are not good on acronyms, it's empty dwelling management orders. I'm not quite sure I need to ask this question, but could you let me know what EFDC are doing to work with property owners to find ways to bring back empty properties back to use without forcing a sale? That's my first question. I've got one other.
I have asked everybody one question. I'll see how we got for time.
Okay, can I then skip that question and go on to the next one?
No, you can't. Could I ask?
I can always ask.
Councillor Holly Whitbread, if you want to answer. Thank you. Do you want to give a written response, or?
Thank you, Chairman, and I'll provide the member with a written response.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. That means everybody's had an opportunity to speak tonight. I will use my discretion. If it's a good question, Councillor Morgan, and it's a quick question, I will allow it, because we do have a very large agenda.
Unfortunately, this is about the Carter-Jones report, and I'd like to say, as we actually haven't had time to read through... Oh, no, sorry. As we haven't had time to read through the Carter-Jones report, I would like to put forward a motion that it's deferred, so that every councillor here has time to read
Morgan,
it.
Sorry.
Please. Thank you.
Please ask a sensible question.
That it was a sensible question.
No, it wasn't.
We
That's
haven't had time to read it.
Can I go to Councillor Heather Brady, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My question, I think, is to Councillor Phillip. It's, could the portfolio holder give an update on the current status of the highway rangers, and a brief update on the work that they're carrying out, specifically with regards to the rural areas of the district. Thank you.
Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the question. It is in my portfolios. I'd like to pass some of them over, but this one I wouldn't like to pass over. I'm always very pleased to stand here and talk about the highway rangers. It's a subject close to my heart. You may be interested to know that the highway rangers received an award in the Pride of Epping Forest District Council Awards. This was to recognise the exemplary work they did by attempting CPR on an unconscious driver earlier in the year. The rangers came across a man slumped at the wheel, contacted emergency service while beginning CPR. Unfortunately, the driver did not pull through, but he had the best chance of survival with trained officers seeing someone in need of help and stepping into action. So they really do go above and beyond. I'm trying to get a regular update of what the highway rangers actually do in the district. There was a piece in the latest bulletin, which I hope you all read, but just as an outline, that they're working all over the district, and they have recently been working in Moulton, Bobbingworth, Shearing, Nasing, Lambourne End, Stamford Rivers, Toot Hill, Epping Upland, Tawney Common, and work on about 6 roundabouts in the district, as well as work in the major parts of the district. So I think they do sterling work, and long may it continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. So that does conclude our item number 9, questions by members without public notice. I'm conscious that we've got a heavy agenda, so I hope that you will support me in moving forward with item 10, because we've got a long meeting. So item 10 is motions, and I believe, Laura, there are no motions being proposed?
There have been no motions proposed.
Thank you. Thank you. Laura, there are no motions being proposed?
There have been no motions proposed.
Thank you. In which case, can we move on to item number 11, please? Report of the Members' Room Remuneration Panel, Members' Allowance Scheme 2024-25, pages 111 to 138. May I invite Steve Lai, is it? And Tina Finn to present.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Evening, everyone. It's the annual event. Just 3 points to draw out of our report this year. The only change recommended is to spread the overall workload allowance, i.e. the sum spent on basic allowances, over the fewer number of councillors there are now. What that does is it just says that the fewer number of councillors are doing the same amount of work they were doing originally. So the logic is the basic allowance should therefore be distributed amongst the fewer number of councillors. The benefit of that in our view of things is that it avoids our councillors falling below the bottom of the benchmark list of councillors for like authorities. You may recall in previous years we've been somewhat concerned that the value of our councillors seems to have dropped down the scale, and we don't think it's right that our councillors are viewed or valued any less than comparable authorities. The result of that recommendation is that there's no increase in the amount spent on allowances. It's kept within last year's budget. But I appreciate it's for you to decide how you spend the money on a councillor's allowances. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lai. Ms. Finn, did you want to add anything to that report? Okay. Can I just, before I take to members, can I thank Mr. Lai for your hard work in putting the report together and everything that you've done on behalf of Epping Forest District Council. And if just go to members now, Councillor. Sorry, Councillor Whitbread. Either.
Thank you, Chairman. And can I thank Mr. Lai and the members of the remuneration panel. They do this piece of work for us every year, and obviously we take on board their advice each year, and usually because of the budget pressures we're under, we decline every year. But of course, you make a good argument that this year we will have fewer councillors, and therefore the basic allowance would be covered by the fewer councillors. Of course, we don't want to be the lowest in Essex, but we are, because we've always taken that prudent position. What I would suggest this year is that because of the changing circumstance of this council, that we will be smaller post-May, with only 54 members, that we defer this issue. We accept the report, but defer this and put it into the budget as a bid and see where we go. We all know how tough this year's budget is. We've gone through numerous meetings at scrutiny and at Cabinet. The budget is very difficult, but I take on board the arguments made within the report, and I would recommend that this council lets it go forward as a bid within the budget, and then as we get to January and we come back to Cabinet and back to overview and scrutiny, we can debate the issue more fully.
Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you, Leader. So the proposal...
Sorry, I'm trying to attract Councillor Pond's attention.
So you've got your mic on, Councillor Pond.
Sorry, Chairman.
Any other member wishing to speak? Because I think there's a proposal for a deferral for this item. So, Councillor John Phillip.
I won't speak just at the moment, Chairman, but I'm happy to second that motion, given the amount of work that we're putting into the budget. But I'll reserve my right to speak later.
Okay, can I think there was Councillor Murray wanted to speak, and then I'll come back to that.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I knew this item was on the agenda, but I hadn't actually seen Stephen Lai where he was sitting, so I do need to have a declaration of a non-prejudicial interest, because I consider Stephen to be a friend, not a close friend, and I don't mean that rudely. I don't mean that rudely, but our paths have crossed on numerous occasions, so he's a friend of sorts, so non-prejudicial but non-pecuniary. I agree with the proposal. We need to look at this in the wider framework of the budget. We know things are difficult. But I will just say this, and this isn't a plea for extra money for ordinary councillors. I need to make that absolutely clear. But I also think we do need to recognise that the rewarding will have a significant impact on the workload of individual councillors. For example, if I'm fortunate enough to be re-elected for a vastly new ward, which I personally would put down as a 50-50 chance, I will, instead of representing 2,500 houses, I will be representing 3,500 houses. I've already anticipated in the decision of standing that I would expect my casework to double. That's what I would expect. So I do just want to say to the panel in future years, I think we do need to get feedback from councillors about the impact on the changes of wards, because I think that will be quite significant. But I completely agree with the proposals that they've made this year, and I completely agree with the leadership's proposal on the table.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Janet Whitehouse.
Thank you, Chairman. Despite the good reasons that Mr Lai made for an increase in the allowance, my group felt we weren't able to support it because of the great demands on the budget and the need to put everything towards services. But the suggestion that the decision is deferred and it goes in as a bid amongst all the other requirements does sound a good one, so I think we would be happy to agree to that. But there was one other issue I wanted to raise. All members were asked to put forward savings for this very difficult budget. And at the ONS meeting last week, one of the suggestions that I made was that we did review the allowances paid to members who chair meetings, because some of the chairings are not that onerous, and also some of the committees now don't meet as often as they used to. So I would ask the panel that they looked at that particularly in the coming few months. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Janet Whitehouse. I think what I'm hearing here is that we're all in agreement. So can I have your... Councillor Phillip, did you want to come back, respond?
Thank you, Chairman. If I just might to second the motion, I'm glad to hear that it's getting traction across the chamber. I think it's a very sensible way to do it. Yeah. We have talked about how that might fit into the overall budget. Mr Lai is quite right. It's within the existing envelope because of the reduction in number of councillors. But I think the only sensible way is to wrap it into the overall look at it. I do take both what Mr Lai says. We don't want to devalue what it's doing. I take on board completely what Councillor Murray says. The interesting thing is if you look at the allowance, even the new allowance, in terms of the living wage, you're looking at about 7 hours a week. I suspect the majority of diligent councillors spend more than 7 hours a week on what they're doing. So we have to recognise that for a lot of councillors, particularly those at the earlier on in their career, if they're dedicating time to working on the council work, they are not having the ability to actually do stuff in where they're employed and the other pieces of work. So it is a trade-off, and it does come back to what Councillor Murray says. So I will look at it favourably. I will look at it in the whole, as we look at the whole budget, and I hope to be clear when we come back to overview and scrutiny, and then Cabinet, and of course finally to Council in February with a formed budget of what we can actually afford to do.
Thank you, Councillor Phillip. So can I just see a show of hands, those in favour of deferring the motion, deferring this item till next year? Yeah, I think it's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much. That item will be deferred to the next meeting next year. Okay, so item number 12 is the approval of the inter-authority agreement for the Harlow and Gilston Garden Town Joint Committee, pages 139 to 207. May I invite Councillor Nigel Bedford to take this? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Members will be aware this is an ambitious growth and regeneration agenda around Harlow, which includes up to 23,000 new homes, of which a minimum of 3,900 new homes are planned across the 3 strategic neighbourhood master planning areas in Epping Forest, as identified in our recently adopted local plan. Epping Forest District Council is already working in informal partnership with East Herts, Harlow, Herts County Council, Essex County Council to progress the overarching vision. But this sometimes means that decisions have to be taken 5 times. Following agreement by the leaders and the lead members at the 2021 HGGT board meeting that the HGG members needed to evolve to be more fit for purpose as the project moved to project delivery, a report setting out the future governance and the partnership framework was reported to the HGGT board on the 17th of July this year. It's recommended that a joint committee be established, which was agreed at that meeting and was the arrangement as set out in the Inter-Authority Agreement, the IAA. A joint committee will demonstrate unified leadership and oversight in a comprehensive agenda, as well as transparency for residents and others. And then following the meeting of Cabinet on the 13th of November 2023, it was agreed I would bring this recommendation to full council, which is what I'm doing today. It is recommended full council agrees to the setting of the joint committee and to transfer some decision-making powers to the HGG Joint Committee as defined in the Inter-Authority Agreement appendices in the report. And please note this would not include any planning or highway decisions-making powers, which will remain with the relevant authority. The agreement sets out the role of the Joint Committee, its area, membership, chairing, voting, scrutiny, accountable body review and exit arrangements, which I think are all practical and sensible. Therefore, put this motion to the Council.
Thank you, Councillor Bedford. So can we have an agreement to approve? Any questions, sorry, on this item? No. In which case, you've done a brilliant job, Councillor Bedford. Can we have an agreement to approve this? Agreed. Thank you. Item number 13 is the Council calendar of meetings for 2024-25, pages 208 to 212. Members, you've had an opportunity to see these dates. Can I have your agreement to adopt those dates for next year's meetings? Agreed. Okay, super. We're doing very well. I'm not going to say that too loud because the next item is item 13. Which is the substantive item, supplementary agenda, which is on pages 214 to 481, and I am sure that you've read every single page of that. Excellent. Good. So this item is on here because it's an item that's been a deferral from DDMC to full council to make a decision. This is not a planning matter. This is an item that we're voting on to approve the variation of the 106 agreement. So I've got Mr. Nick Finney, who will take us through with the report. And then, if I can just outline that, we will also have the objector and the applicant speak on the motion. I will restrict this to 5 minutes, maximum of 5 minutes per person, if you're willing to speak on the item. It's going to be timed. The objector and the applicant will have 3 minutes each. But members, if you're wishing to speak, you'll have maximum 5. That's what's been approved under our constitution rules. So you have 5 minutes if you wish to speak, up to 5 minutes. Not that you should speak for 5 minutes, but if you wanted to. So there will be a timer in place. Before we start, kick off, Councillor Heap, did you want to?
Yes, I think that Councillor Morgan wanted to make a deferment motion at this point, which is before the item.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Could you repeat that again?
Councillor Morgan wanted to make a deferment motion, and we were told that we had to do it before this item was heard.
Sorry, could you give me a few moments to pause? I just need to speak to our officers. Councillor Heap, thank you for drawing that to our attention. However, it is up to each member to actually put their hand up and say they want to defer it. So, Councillor Morgan, if you are looking to defer this motion, I would want to have good grounds as to why you're deferring this item. Thank you.
Of course. I would like to defer this item because, unfortunately, would you like me to go through every bit that I have on this? Or just,
if it's relevant,
just the relevant Morgan, bit, yes. Is the fact that I don't think members have had time to read all of the associated information. As we heard earlier, there's a lot of unanswered questions that we need answered before we can actually make a formed decision, and we have to do best value, and it's not best value if we turn around and agree to something that we don't know all the information about. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Morgan, do you have a proposer? Sorry, before I go on to Councillor Murray.
Well, I want to speak in favour of the deferment. Do you want me to speak on that? Yeah, okay, I'm quite happy to second that. I think there are 4 reasons why I think we should defer this. One, my understanding is that the District Development Committee were given the understanding that it was deferred to the February meeting of Council. Secondly, it hasn't been made really very clear how that understanding from, I think, only last Wednesday has now morphed into, well, actually it's going to be referred to this meeting. I've not had a proper explanation for why that took place. So that would be another reason why I think we should defer it. I think, in all honesty, we have to say that at this time of the year, how many members have had the opportunity to read all those 200 pages? I have to stand here tonight and say, though I make a strenuous effort to read virtually every piece of paper, or, well, we don't see paper now, but you know what I mean, every page we see, and I think sometimes the details of questions I ask demonstrate that I do that. I clearly haven't been able to do that, and I think that would be true for the bulk of members. Thirdly, and I probably will slip into more than 4 reasons, but I am giving you proper reasons, I just think perception really matters. And I think out there in the public, the perception of how we are dealing with this, it doesn't pass the sniff test. Now, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that we are doing anything unconstitutional. You know, why would I want to suggest that? But it doesn't pass what I call the sniff test. And I think people think that we're not being kind of a straight bat here. So I think all round it's much better that we defer this. I didn't hear the detailed questions, though I have attempted to follow a multitude of emails, and again I found that quite difficult to follow, but I've got the gist of the emails that have been going around on this, and we've had some really important questions asked tonight, and I'm told that we haven't really had the answers to those, so that would be another reason. So I think it's really quite clear why we should defer this to February, Chairman.
Councillor Murray, thank you for that. This item was actually listed for DDMC, so members have had an opportunity to attend that meeting to get versed with what this item was all about, and it is an important item for the council. So, and also you've had it's been published as well. So, anyway, any other members wishing to speak? Councillor Phillip.
Thank you, Chairman. I actually disagree with the previous speakers. I don't believe that we should be deferring this motion. We all take our responsibilities as councillors seriously, and we make time to read things when we can. I have read all of the pages. I have to say, I suspect for a lot of councillors who are not used to reading viability assessments, even reading all the 200 pages is not going to set a lot of light on what's actually there. We have a planning officer who will take us through the details as far as it's required to understand what's going on. We take this approach regularly in our planning committees, where we rely on our experts to interpret things that we do not understand. I do remember, I hate to think how many years ago it is now, probably about 8, when we actually had a seminar in this very room to go through how viability assessments were done. And even then, a significant number of councillors who could have attended didn't. I think we also have to recognise that we have a duty under planning legislation to determine applications in a timely manner. A deferral of the Section 106 out into February to the budget meeting, when we are really busy anyway, and that will not be an easy meeting, is not a sensible way to run things. I don't see that there's a good reason for deferral, and I certainly will not be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Phillip. So, members, Councillor Morgan has proposed the motion, the item to be deferred, and we've got a seconder as well, Councillor Murray. So I'm going to take it straight to the vote. And
can I request a recorded vote, please?
Okay, so in which case we would need 5 members to put themselves forward. Sorry? So there's only... How many have you counted?
I've only counted 2 people.
I need 5. If there are 5. Okay. So therefore, we will now go to the vote. Mr. Small, would you like to take us through the show of hands for those who would like the item to be deferred?
Is it being recorded?
No, it's
or
not
not?
being recorded.
You didn't say what
5.
we have to do. Where we have to put our hands up, stand up.
There weren't 5 members in a recorded
Chairman,
vote.
Chairman, I do worry that we have councillors in the chamber who clearly haven't read their constitution and don't understand what's going on in this, the most important meeting of the council. Things are laid down in black and white in the constitution. I welcome Councillor Morgan coming along to the next Constitution Committee so she can actually see how the Constitution works. Can we move to the vote,
Thank
please,
you. We're going to
Councillor?
move to the vote. Members, all those who would like the item deferred, can I have a show of hands, please? Sorry, I'm going to take it. We've got a lot of business to conduct.
Sorry, Chairman. I really think we've got a new member here, and I think you should have made it clear that you required 5 members to indicate.
Councillor Murray, please, could I ask you to respectfully sit down? I did actually say that you need 5 members for a recorded vote, and there weren't 5. Mr. Small could verify that.
You can give him an opportunity.
So I would like to take this to the vote, if I may, please. I mean, I will allow Councillor Chidi to come in. Just don't know. It doesn't matter. Very quickly.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman.
Before take it.
I wasn't clear when you were asking for 5 members to support the motion, so that's why.
No, it's for recorded vote, but we've gone past that now, so we need to go straight to the vote. So, members, can I ask for those members wanting to defer this item, can I see a show of hands, please?
Absolutely appalling. He didn't even make it clear the 5 members had to indicate. Just appalling.
So those against?
And those against?
They've got no shame at all.
That's carried. Do you want abstentions?
How many?
Abstentions, please.
Any abstentions? No. Okay, so that item will now be, we will now, the objection has fallen, so we'll now move on to debating item number 13A, the supplementary agenda. That's on pages 214 to 418. I'd like to invite Mr. Nick Finney to go through the report, please. Mr. Finney, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I will give the presentation that was given to DDMC last week. Can I hope the presentation works? Okay, so it's concerning a variation to Section 106 legal agreements related to the St John's Road planning application and the Civic Office's condo building planning application. Just to recap on the history, we previously dealt with 5 separate planning applications for the Epping town centre sites that were submitted by Qualis. Today we are just considering matters related to the St John's Road and the Civic Office's site. The applications were originally brought to DDMC committee on the 27th of October 2021 and approved. Following detailed discussions on the wording of the Section 106, the planning permissions were actually issued on the 25th of February 2022. Each application is subject to its own Section 106 legal agreement. The agreements for each site secured 25% affordable housing at the time. Just to remind what the sites are, St John's Road comprised 184 dwellings. 2 of those were existing cottages on the site, and the Civic Office's site comprised 45 dwellings. So the original decision, at the time it was the draft local plan policy H2 that was considered, and there was a 40% affordable housing requirement. As noted earlier, the St John's Road site benefited from a vacant building credit, which is a national policy that allows you to net off existing floor space on a site. And as St John's Road had existing buildings that met that criteria, the actual policy requirement in that case was 34%. As reported in those committee reports at the time, financial viability appraisals were provided, which showed that it was not viable to provide a policy compliant position. And on that basis, a 25% affordable housing requirement was attached to those planning permissions. At that time, that 25% was also showing as a marginal position, but it was considered a break-even position that was accepted. And that was split 20% as shared ownership and 80% as a mix of affordable rented and social rented. So the current proposal is to vary that on the St John's Road and Civic Office's site, and the proposal is to reduce it from 25 to 0 on the Civic Office's site and from 25 to 17 on the St John's Road site. This is due to current economic conditions with rising inflation, which is affecting building costs, interest rates, and this is causing a viability challenge. And the corresponding increase in development values has not kept pace with that, so costs have outpaced the development values. The previously agreed viability appraisals have been revisited and revised with updated costs and value inputs, and this has evidenced the viability challenge that the schemes are facing, which is showing sort of a negative position actually in both cases. Notwithstanding, the applicant has sought to maintain affordable housing on St John's Road site, despite the viability saying that could still be showing us that's difficult. And that's because the site's a bigger site and it's got a longer build programme than Conda, so there's more chance to mitigate that viability position over time. A separate item related to St John's Road. The original Section 106 agreement required all Section 106 payments to be paid on commencement as a lump sum. Also linked to viability, the applicants seeking that those triggers are phased as different blocks come forward, and that's been worked through to allow the payments to be made proportionate to each part of the development as it comes forward. And it doesn't change the total payments that are due. So in making the recommendation that we've made, we've considered the viability evidence that's been provided to us, which is in accordance with national guidance and our policy, which allows that process to take place. This evidence has been accepted, and that the level of affordable housing originally provided can no longer be met. And we've, in addition, considered the planning benefits in the round of continuing to move forward with these developments, which are well advanced, and the benefit that housing provision in all its forms brings, and the benefit this will bring to Epping Town Centre. Just note the late stage reviews are still retained within the Section 106 agreements, and that allows any change in the viability at a future date to be clawed back, and that difference to be made up. So the recommendation of officers is to approve the Section 106 deed of variations as set out in our report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Finney. So we'll now go on to the objector. It was Mr. Roger Lawry, but unfortunately he couldn't make it here. But he has asked for a substitute to present the objection. Under Chairman's discretion, I shall allow the substitute to present the objection. That's Selina Jeffcoat. But you have 3 minutes, strictly 3 minutes. Over to you.
Thank you. The planning inspector recently allowed 100 units on Virgin Greenbelt in Hertfordshire, just because 45 of them were affordable. The inspector put very substantial weight on this because of significant under-delivery of affordable housing by that council, who were delivering 55 affordable units a year on average. In the last 4 years, Epping have delivered a total of 19 affordable units, not even 5 a year. We now hear Qualis haven't engaged a registered housing provider. As the director of a company that has recently built more affordable housing units on one site than Epping has managed in the last 4 years, I consider the suggestion that a registered provider is engaged towards the end of a large development is at best naive and at worst misleading. A responsible developer agrees the specification, build costs and the total sales revenue for affordable housing with a provider before they're built. With no housing provider ever in place, some may doubt Qualis even intended to deliver affordable housing. Carter Jonas are a company who proudly say on their website that they negotiated a 25% affordable housing for Qualis, which is lower than the policy requirement of 40%. And now they've come back for another bite. We heard earlier Section 106 contributions agreed in 2022 were probably around 800,000. That tallies with the infrastructure funding statement that year, which shows Epping agreeing a total 1 million approximately for all Section 106s that year. What's not clear is why Carter Jonas calculations include a total 2.4 million contributions from Section 106s for these two sites. County have confirmed they're not getting anything like an extra 1.6 million, so why is it in there? I was at Cabinet last night. According to Qualis, the build cost at Conda at the end of August was £6,079,052, up from £2 million in January. Those published work in progress figures seem now in dispute. Members heard the site last night is almost complete and sales revenue will start coming through. Condo's nearly finished and this is a later stage viability assessment. The RICS process is that actuals are used when available. It's not explained why that's not the case here. Neither Carter Jonas or the planners have given you viability costs for the proposed St John's 17% affordable, which is a significant omission, as that's what they want you to approve tonight. Carter Jonas do tell you that with the most profitable scenario, zero affordable on both sites, Qualis will lose over 9 million. Last night, the business plan, the financials, not even Qualis's board, told Cabinet that the best case scenario for these sites was a £9 million loss. No, they were told the condo revenue was a milestone. Carter Jonas advised you it's more of a millstone. Who's actually fooling who here? This is why you want BPS, the council's own assessors, to look at all the viability reports using actual costs, and you want to hear directly from them
Mrs.
what
Jeffco,
they think.
could you just wrap up, please? You've got
I
5
am,
seconds.
but they're not. You can't make an informed decision without reading the independent advice from your own paid advisors. Qualis can't have it both ways. They can't have Carter Jonas telling you the best scenario is 9 million.
Please sit down, please.
The day after Qualis CEO reports to Cabinet.
Thank you. I do hope that if I've invited a member of the public to speak, you respect the chairman and sit down when you've been asked to sit down. Thank you. Right. Can we now go to the applicant, please? Mr. Simon Rutter.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, councillors. My name is Simon Rutter. I'm Managing Director of Qualis Commercial. You are all familiar with the two sites, but as a brief summary, since planning consent was granted in February 2022, we've undertaken the following works. Behind the civic offices here, we have demolished the office building, appointed Davis Construction to build the development, which is now well advanced. We are looking forward to phase 1 completing in the summer next year, just to qualify the statement about nearly ready. Over at St John's, full demolition has been completed and the contract for Block G, the first development on the High Street, has started. When these planning applications were approved in October 2021, they were accompanied with an affordable housing viability assessment. All that has changed in the information you see before you today is that these reports have been updated and clearly demonstrate the impact of the economic situation we all find ourselves in since then. In respect of Conda, construction costs over time have risen by 27%, with only a marginal change in sales values. At St John's, this is approaching 50% increase in costs. No one can deny that the world has changed dramatically since planning permission was granted. With substantial inflation in construction materials, many developers are struggling with increases in interest rates, which has resulted in numerous developments stalling and increasing the housing shortage across the UK. Despite our best efforts to mitigate these costs, we are simply unable to meet the original affording housing commitments. We are asking tonight for a reduction only in affordable housing, not the removal of affordable housing, which is evidenced by the reports. It's important to Qualis that we find the right balance between deliverability and viability to support our objectives across the district. Examples of this level of reduction in affordable housing have been seen in other schemes. People have asked if this is in conflict with the Council's affordable housing policy. Your planning committee last week approved this reduction, and I think this feels like a council that understands the difficult economic environment all house builders find themselves. Like a council that understands planning is not always black and white and that judgments need to be made. Like a council that wants to see new homes, affordable homes, and a significant Section 106 contribution of £2.4 million for the benefit of the local community. Please remember that St John's School closed in 2010 and will continue to remain derelict without a supportive decision from you all tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, you've now heard the presentation from our officer and the objector and the applicant. I will open this debate up to members, and can I remind members that we're not determining a planning application that has been already granted. We are looking to approve the variation on the 106 agreement. Members, I will take, as you put your hand up, I'll ask you, invite you to speak. And if I can humbly request, given that it's a season of goodwill, that we don't repeat anything that's already been said in the chamber. If you do repeat and you start to repeat, I will respectfully ask you to sit down. Simple. If you've got something new to add, I'd love to hear that in the debate. So let's start this off and let's keep it all nice and happy. So I'm Councillor Heap.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll try not to repeat everything, but clearly we haven't had all the information that we should require. We haven't had corroboration that the viability plan is correct. We haven't had it updated to represent 17%. But put all that to one side. We've got a local plan, 16 years, £7 million, with a policy of 40% affordability. As soon as there's a problem, throw that out the window. 25%, 17%, doesn't matter. And then yesterday, the housing strategy 2023 to 2027 was at Cabinet, and it says the Council's housing strategy 2023 to 27 provides a golden thread from the corporate plan through to housing-related services, with priorities. Priority 1, increase the supply of affordable housing. Straight away, ignored. This is a travesty.
Thank you. Did anybody want to respond? Councillor Williamson? Oh, no, I just thought if we take it as we go along.
Thank you, Chair. I was a member of DDMC, and I'd like to make it clear to everybody tonight that the officer's recommendation for approval was approved by a majority of the members at that meeting. Lots of points have been raised. I won't repeat them because you'll ask me to sit down. But I think it's true to say, nobody's mentioned it previously, that any developer will be treated in exactly the same way as the applicant here. There is no special treatment going on. The viability assessment has been produced by specialists. Our own specialist has agreed those figures. The late stage review has been mentioned, which I think is incredibly important. And I think it's true to say that the tenor of the meeting was that all members were disappointed, but with the changes were better than no development at all. Other points since that meeting, that I've been reading all of the documents yet again, this doesn't set a precedent to any other developer to just come in. They have to go through the viability assessment stage. So that is... On the viability assessments, it's been mentioned several times here, and I'd like, in the Royal Institution Chartered Surveyors guidelines, which on previous occasions I've forwarded to members here, and I'm happy to forward it on to anybody that else requires it, the link. The forward in the document states, an assessment of viability for planning purposes is distinct and separate from a market valuation. We are not looking at comparison figures it is purely for planning purposes. Nobody goes in to build a development with a -6 million at the beginning of it. Many developers are delaying building in the current economic climate. We should consider ourselves fortunate that the applicant is carrying on here, providing well-needed homes in the district. Otherwise, we could be faced with holdings around the St John's site for many additional years. As mentioned earlier, this was brought to full council, I think, for very good reasons. And just to summarise, this council wishes to regenerate rundown areas in the district, one of which is the St John's site, which has been blighted for so many years, and that is why I will be supporting these amendments tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. I thought it would be useful if we could just invite Councillor Kesko, who was the chair of the DDMC, just to give us a synopsis and summary of what happened and where we were with the committee.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, this came before DDMC on Wednesday the 13th. There were aspects that the committee were unhappy about. I remember only a couple of them. One, that both sites are on the same application, although the problems were the same, the outcomes were rather different. And the second, that the printed viability statement assessment was only available to us fully on the day. However, it was noted at that committee that the change in financial viability was entirely down to the very steep rise in inflation over the last year, which was not in the council's or the developers' control. Although it was mentioned that there was great disappointment that the number of affordable units would be seriously reduced, we were reminded that any new dwellings in the district were seriously needed and that any profit from the sites would return to EFDC for use paying for frontline services. As a result, the committee considered the approval was the best result in a difficult position. The application was passed. I must say I voted for approval at DDMC and I will vote for approval again tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Kesker, for that. I've got Councillor Stephen Murray next.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll be voting against approval. I'm still not happy that it's even here tonight and we haven't had a proper explanation. I'm certainly unhappy that you haven't allowed a recorded vote because it wasn't clearly indicated that 5 people were requested. I've already had 2 messages from members of the public who are watching the webcast from people who I do not know. I hasten to add that, I do not know, and they are saying that they felt exactly that point, that a recorded vote was probably going to be asked for but wasn't kind of allowed. So let's go on to the substance of the argument. We've had the detailed points made by the member of the public, which I think deserve detailed responses before I would be able to vote for this. Affordable housing is really important. The percentage of affordable housing on these key urban sites were, in my view, too low to begin with, given the target we have in our local plan. But, you know, they were reasonable, but they weren't generous to start with. We're now being asked to reduce them very significantly. We're not talking about a small reduction. Everyone knows the numbers. It's a very significant reduction. I have to say, it shows or demonstrates to me that I think the commitment to affordable housing isn't as strong as I would have liked it to be. That's just very clear. That's another thing you can draw from this. And though I accept each case is regarded on its merits and a technical case has to be put, there are developers watching this meeting. There are developers that are watching how we treat Qualis. And we've got to remember that Epping Forest is the only shareholder with Qualis, so perception does matter. There will be other developers watching what we do on this issue, and they will do their best to wriggle out of any commitments that they have made or we would have expected them to make on future sites. So though I accept it's not an absolute precedent, it does give them a green light to chance their arm with a good technical report and a good set of figures to reduce the commitment to affordable housing. And I think the final thing I want to just say, because it was said to a member of the public, which I thought was in a rather discourteous way, and I'm going to just say something that I've always taught young teachers. Pupils don't give young teachers respect automatically. I think respect has to be earned, and I think this council is losing respect in how they're dealing with this issue tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Can I just say that the deferral was you could have had the opportunity to do the recorded vote, but you still have an opportunity to do a recorded vote for this item now as well, if you're mindful. If everybody wants, if 5 people want to propose, you can have a recorded vote for this item. Yeah, that's fine. No, we could do that just before we take to the vote, yeah? Councillor Jeannie Lee.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not an expert on all of this, but and I am disappointed about the affordable homes, but I've recently had work done, and when I was quoted for this work, this is having my house separated for my son living upstairs and bathrooms added and everything, I was quoted £37,000 for the work to be done. Now, this was only 3 years ago. It's just been completed and it's cost me £62,000. And even just one roll of electrical cable had gone up while the guy was doing the work, and he had to go out and get more because he didn't know that my house still had the old brown cable in so he didn't know he had to have so much. And he came back, and he was so shocked. And he showed me the bill. He said, this is twice of what I paid for this last one. So I understand why it's difficult now to do affordable housing with it. But we will get back in that we're doing affordable housing. It's just, I think, what's happened with COVID and everything else, everything's just gone mad. And there's just not enough money. And unless we agree to get this building started, no one's going to build any houses. And we desperately need them. We will get affordable again. So I'm just letting you know that that's what the problem is. Everything has gone up so much in price.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor John Whitehouse.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm afraid I will repeat some of what I said at DDMC the other night. And this is an application in 3 parts. In some ways, it's a shame they're all wrapped up together. I mean, the phasing of Section 106 is not something I've got an issue with. I can see how that helps cash flow, and as long as it is tied to the delivery of the relevant bits of infrastructural contributions that are needed by the authority to spend it, I can see how that makes sense. But the bulk of this debate's been on the affordable housing element. I mean, the starting point, as I think is common ground, has to be the council's local plan, which is recent. It's gone through a viability assessment, been thoroughly tested at examination, and you need very good reasons to depart from that. And it's worth reminding ourselves, even the 2022 approval reduced the affordable housing rate from 34 or 40%, depending on the site, to 25%. I mean, I raised various issues at DDMC. I'm not sure we've fully got a convincing answer to why the costs have gone up less on the Condor site, but the amount of affordable housing is being reduced more. I mean, I get the point, there's longer to recruit viability with a larger, longer-lasting site. But, on the other hand, we must have much more accurate figures for the Condor site than we do for the St John's site, given how close it is to completion. And that doesn't come through in the viability assessments. And I am concerned the viability assessments have not been tested as thoroughly as perhaps they needed to be. For example, why are the costs of building a temporary car park included in the cost plan, but not the income generated from the temporary car park? I mean, I would have thought both should be excluded because that's not part of residential development that we gave permission for. I mean, the viability consultants haven't done an alternative viability report. They've done a fairly broad brush, fairly light touch look at the Carter-Jonas reports in the light of the viability assessment they did of the original application back in 2021-2022. I did want to ask in particular how the late-stage viability review is going to work, because if it's only triggered at 85% being sold, at a maximum, that leaves you 15% units for affordable housing, and particularly on a site where you're looking to put the affordable housing in one block, that might not work. So presumably that means a financial payment, as opposed to actual affordable units. And we all know that's less satisfactory in terms of delivering the homes we need than on-site provision. So I think there is a lot of doubt in this. It possibly could have been resolved if it was deferred to get answers to some of these things. But I have to say, I'm not convinced so far. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehouse. Councillor Nowicki.
Thank you, Chairman. I will try not to repeat what has been said already, and I will also say I'm not an expert in viability assessment of the result as we have been supplied, and I've not had time to go through it because I've been busy at work. So because I work full time and I have other conditions that means that when I come back from work, I'll be very tired. I didn't have time to go through the report. But I was reading a housing strategy document which has been referred to by my colleague, Councillor Heap, and something struck me on it, and it's a statement that was said by Councillor Holly Whitbread, which says, with high demand comes challenge, particularly the supply of safe, good quality homes that all of our residents can afford to live in. It is important that the variety of homes available and housing-related services are designed to meet all needs of all our residents and their families at various stages of their lives. This includes young people, where it can often be a challenge for them to find housing locally and stay in the place they grew up. And reading this, I understand, for being someone that has benefited from affordable homes in London before I moved to Epping, or before I moved to Loughton, I know the importance of affordable homes. And surely I said to myself, how can the council claim to be committed to providing affordable housing and meet the needs of all residents, when Qualis is seeking to remove or reduce the affordable homes that it's meant to provide in the two sites that they're in charge of, knowing that EFDC is the shareholder of Qualis. So this is kind of a question or a statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nowicki. Can I bring in Councillor Holly-Whitbread?
Thank you, Chairman. And I wasn't planning to speak this evening, but I just want to make a few comments around affordable housing. First of all, I want to reassert this council's dedication to affordable housing. Actually, I've been the Cabinet Member for Housing for 4 years now, I believe. And in that time, in this chamber, I've been absolutely resolute that we support building affordable housing. And actually, over the last decade, we've built more than 500 new council homes. We're one of the only councils in this country who have built that many council homes. So I think here in Epping Forest, as a council, we can be absolutely proud of our record on affordable housing. And it's something that we want to continue. But you would have heard me in recent months and weeks talking about the pressure on the housing revenue account. And actually, while we're still ambitious for council house building, the costs, as Councillor Lee explained so well, have just gone up so astronomically. The level and scale to which we can build has gone down. And I think we do have to have a bit of a reality check here about what we can do and what we can afford. So absolutely, we should be doing all we can to push for affordable housing. And while I'm in this role as the Cabinet Member for Housing, I will always fight to deliver affordable housing, and for all ages as well. And let me say, I know how hard it is to be able to buy a home in Epping and Epping Forest District. I lived at home until I was 28 and was able to save up after many years of working to buy a flat in Epping, the place where I've lived, and I know how hard that is. So, you know, I come from a position where I get it. I get how difficult it is. But going specifically to this site in Epping, and it's a site I know well, it's a site I went to school on many, many years ago now. That site's been derelict for 15 years. So I think, are we seriously saying tonight we're going to leave that site derelict for another 15 years? I think we just need to be realistic about this and what's best for the people of Epping. We're in desperate need of new homes on brownfield sites, not greenbelt sites, by the way. We're in desperate need of homes, and that's of all tenures. That's of private tenure as well as social tenure. So the reason I want to speak tonight mainly is to reassert our commitment to affordable housing, which as a council we have shown consistently. But talking about this specific planning application, I think we're all aware that this is not ideal. We don't want to be in a position where we're cutting affordable housing, but we have to live in the real world. And actually, if something, and I know we're talking about the applicant tonight, but the applicant is wholly owned by the District Council, and we have to think of the financial implications on the District Council, and the profit from these homes, when we sell them, comes to the District Council, so we can invest money in our frontline services which support vulnerable people across this community. So I support this application this evening, and actually I support it for the good of this council and the good of our community. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Whitbread. I've got Councillor Barlow next.
Thank you. I don't confess to be great at any of this at all. And as you can see, I have all the paperwork. I've tried my best to go through as much as possible. And so I stand here as a little bit of a layperson with this. And I would have liked it to be deferred so that I could have had that time to have asked more questions, to have gone through so much of this. And because I haven't, I just feel there's a little bit of a lack of transparency. So my questions are this, and I'm sorry if I sound so a bit naive about all of this, but why have members still not had sight of any independent assessment? Not just the assessment of this revision, but the original ones too. Councillor Phillips said that the council's own advisors had reviewed the new statements, but why have councillors not seen this report? I'd just like that answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. May I invite Councillor Phillips? Did you want to respond to that or just note it?
Do I get to speak another time as well, Chairman?
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to Councillor Razia Sharif.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not going to repeat myself, so you were pleased to know that. But I would like to highlight something. Councillor Phillips said that there wasn't a completion date. He didn't know. But then Mr Simon Rutter said there's a completion date of summer 2024. Just need clarity on that. Thank you.
Thank you,
Point of correction, Mr Chairman. Mr Rutter stated quite clearly that the completion in the summer next year was of phase 1.
Thank you. Okay, so could we go on to Councillor Lisa Morgan?
I have had time to go through the report. I was sitting up till 3 o'clock this morning reading it. And actually, before I say that, thank you, Mr Phillips, for saying to come along, but I've actually read the Constitution twice. Unfortunately, it's a shame that the other people didn't understand what you have to do. But my questions are actually in agreement with Councillor Whitehouse. We have estimates on the viability statement here of £250,000 for 45 homes. That relates to roughly 1,000 litres of paint per home. We also have internal fire doors of £850 each. On today's prices, I can assure you, you can pick them up between £100 and £150. This is why I won't be supporting it, because we do need an independent viability report, or we need an update actual viability report, not estimates, because we can't give a proper indication of what we're agreeing to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Councillor Bedford.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to correct Councillor Morgan there, being a fire officer, that actually does deal with the cost of fire doors going in. I can tell you now that Hackney Council had to order complete new sets of fire doors. They don't just come as a fire door, it's a fire door and set, and they actually do cost around about £800 a piece. They have to provide the level of protection that's required on common escape routes used within the flats. And Chairman, if I may indulge you a little further, as I've been sitting here listening to the debate this evening, and several things have been mentioned which I think there needs to be some clarity on. Qualis is not the first developer to come to this council and ask for a reduction in affordable housing. I can quote 3 instances when the council fought vigorously to defend the affordable housing. They were the Volvo garage site in High Road, Chigwell, 35 homes, 0% affordable housing after we tried to stop it, and it was allowed on appeal. The next one was Epping Forest College site, 189 homes, only 16% affordable housing was put forward. Again, we defended it and it was allowed on appeal. The third one is the Epping Forest College playing fields, Borders Lane. There were two lots there. There was 189 homes, or 289 homes, 30% affordable housing was put forward. Again, allowed on appeal. So I think, yes, there is a 40% level that's expected, which is recorded within the local plan. But the way that it's been set up, it allows developers to come forward, and that's a government directive that allows the developer to come forward when the viability of that site changes to such a degree they can't afford to do it anymore. And I have to say that this development being put forward by Qualis, it needs to go ahead. We do need affordable housing, which we are going to get some, and we also need the Section 106 agreement money,
And we do need more properties being built in Epping Forest, which is why we've got our local plan going through with the allocated sites. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bedford. Can I just go to Councillor Amos, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I just seek clarification regarding late-stage review. If the financial circumstances had moved in favour of the developer and it was felt that there could have been more affordable housing, would at that stage, would any unsold properties then be designated as affordable housing, or would a cash payment be made instead? And I think perhaps that's one for the planning officer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Respond to that.
The wording in the agreement relates to a financial payment to be made at that late stage. That's what the existing agreement set up, and the revised agreement will be. There could be negotiation on purchase with that money by the local authority, but that's not part of the agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Finney. We've got Councillor Jamie McIver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I will keep my remarks as brief as I possibly can. And I would just like to recognise that this is a very challenging situation that we have all find ourselves in, a very difficult decision to make. And I actually have the utmost respect and admiration to all officers and indeed members of Qualis who are having to deal with incredibly challenging economic times. And that is at no fault of this council, that is at no fault of anybody other than the economy that we are in and the economic circumstances everyone finds themselves in. And I'd like to thank actually members of DDMC who did refer this to full council. So I think it's absolutely right, considering that this is the council's own developer finding itself in a situation that the full council actually owns the decision, and all members of any committee should be able to operate with their thinking without any fear or favour. And of course, my biggest concern when I first scratched the surface of this problem was the fear of the double standards effect, that we have a local plan, we should follow what's within that local plan, and then with our own council-owned developer not doing so, that fear of perception. However, reading the report, I have felt reassured that the right thing to do this evening is to reduce the allocation. Now, firstly, I will just put on record, particularly for my residents who I am here for and only here for, I know that there'll be people in North Weald, where I proudly represent, who will be incandescent at the fault of their local councillor not standing strong next to affordable housing. But as very articulately put by Councillor Holly Whitbread, there is the reality in the real world that we are in. Do we want these sites not to be developed? Do we want to have all of the problems that come from sites that sit there doing nothing? And these are not just any sites. These are sites, of course, that are in prime positions of such an important high street in Epping Forest. That's an important consideration. But as Mr. Chairman quite rightly said, this is not about a debate on Qualis. This is not a debate on whether these sites should be built or not. This is simply about the affordable housing allocation. So whilst on the one hand, I absolutely feel as though I want to just stick to our local plan, and I totally understand why people will have that view, and people out there certainly have that view, and I actually canvassed this particular matter yesterday in my own ward, and I understand what people may think. But I think there's an important education piece to be done here. So whilst my main concern is also about the fact we could be overcautious with our concerns here, I really hope that when late-stage viability assessments are done, we find ourselves in a situation perhaps where more affordable housing is an option. But in the situation we are in now, with the report in front of us now, with the facts and figures in front of us now, I think it is incredibly important for this council and the sites and the people of Epping and all of the people that will one day move to these properties that this particular motion is agreed today. Ultimately, the question here for a later stage is how seriously do we take our local plan? More importantly, are there any matters within our local plan we may wish to review? This is all conversations that need to take place at a later date. So, Mr. Chairman, I will be supporting this application tonight as it is, and I do urge members to do so.
Thank you. Councillor McIver. Councillor Tim Matthews.
Thank you, Chairman. It's clear, many members have expressed, we are not the experts. And I'd like to just take the opportunity to remind everyone, this is why we do have expert officers that make recommendations to us so that we can follow their guidance and obviously challenge them where necessary. I think the key thing is to, as everyone's expressed, we're not experts, so let's look at the simple figures within the reports. Looking at the sensitivity analysis was the key part for me in the Carter Jonas report, which has been independently verified. It states there that the benchmark land value isn't met unless sales increase by 10% and construction costs drop by 5%. I think everyone in the chamber, whether an expert in development and building or not, can understand those figures and relate to that and realistically say, in the current climate, that is not something that's realistic. So I think that's the key point to really look at within the report. I'd also like to address Councillor Murray's point on the importance of affordable homes, which I think is a great point, and for me is the exact reason why we should be voting to support this application, as failure to do so will result in 0 affordable homes over both sites. So I will be supporting this evening, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Matthew. I think we've given it quite a lot of time for debate. I've asked all members, everybody's had a chance to speak once. Councillor, I think Allgood is the only one that hasn't, so I will ask if you'd like to say.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have read the report as best as I can because I wasn't around when there was viability statement training. My question is this: is this still going to bring a profit to Qualis? And in which so, I want to come back question.
I'm inviting only one question, so you had that one lifeline. Well, let me see what Councillor Phillips has got to say.
Thank you for allowing me to speak, Chairman, because this has been a very interesting debate. And it is important to remember that what we're talking about here doesn't, as you said, go into who the applicant is. We're assessing this in a quasi-judicial manner. This is a modification to an approved planning application that we have to look at. I'm quite happy to speak to Councillor Allgood about Qualis's finances at some other point. That is not pertinent to the debate tonight. What we're looking at here is the viability. The objector talked about a site in the Greenbelt. One of the reasons that we have sites within the local plan, within our towns and villages, is to try and ensure that our take of Greenbelt to meet our obligations in the local plan is as low as possible. That was a clear message that we got through all the business of the local plan. We want to do brownfield development where we can. It is an unfortunate side effect. Brownfield development is more expensive than greenfield. It's because you've got to do things, as Mr. Rutter referred to, of getting rid of the Qualis building. Now, I know the leader and I have both been talking about wanting to get rid of the Commodore building for quite a long time, but at least we've achieved that. I take issue with Councillor Murray. We're not throwing the 40% target out of the local plan. It is clear, and it's a golden thread running through the original application and running through this application. That is what our target is. We will be able to get that level of affordable housing on some of our larger developments, particularly those larger developments around the Harlow Gilson Garden Town, where we're looking to have significant quantities of development. That scale gives the opportunity to make savings of scale and will make the viability much better. I think Councillor Matthews did actually touch on this, but I want to make it very, very clear. What we're talking about here is the difference between a reduced amount of affordable housing because the development can go ahead, and no affordable housing and no other housing because the development will not go ahead. It's not an easy decision. I quite agree with that. There is a lot of information, a lot of it being numbers in the viability report, and it probably comes as no surprise to members of this chamber. I spend an awful lot of time looking at numbers. I think this is understandable. I quite agree with Councillor Holly Whitbread. We're looking for safe and good quality housing across everything we're doing, and that's also baked into the local plan. We're talking here of an expert report that has been assessed by our own experts and by our planning officers who've come forward with a clear recommendation. This has come up to full council with a recommendation from DDMC to grant, and nothing I have heard tonight from a planning point of view suggests that DDMC made the wrong decision, and therefore I urge people to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Phillip. I think all members have had the opportunity to speak.
My question wasn't answered.
It don't be fair. Sorry, Councillor Barlow, I will invite members to speak, but not now. I'm not inviting you to speak at the moment. So everybody's had an opportunity to have their say. I think we should go to the vote, straight to the vote if we can on this. So
could we have a recorded vote then? Could we explain to people what they have to do for the 5 people?
That was my next question. So
agreement?
if there's an appetite for a recorded vote, I need 5 members to be showing their hands. Do you want to put the names? Yeah, yeah. If I can pass that on to Laura. Thank you.
Just going to clarify,
yeah,
it's for
yeah.
or against or an abstention for the officer's recommendation to support the reduction in affordable housing.
Clear? Everybody clear? So 4 is to support the officer's recommendation.
So to clarify that, a vote for is to support the officer's recommendation. Okay. Councillor Allgood.
Against.
Councillor Amos.
Abstain.
Councillor Balcom.
For the officer.
Councillor Baldwin.
For.
Councillor Barlow.
Abstain.
Councillor Bassett. Sorry, Councillor Bassett. Pecuniary interest. Councillor Bedford.
For the officer's recommendation.
Councillor Bannott.
For.
Councillor Bolton.
For.
Councillor Brady.
For.
Councillor Burrows.
For.
Councillor Green.
For.
Councillor Heap.
Against.
Councillor Heather. Councillor Helen Kane. For. Councillor Sam Kane.
For.
Councillor Kaufman isn't voting. Councillor Kesker.
For.
Councillor Lee. Councillor Lucas.
For.
Councillor Markham.
For.
Councillor Matthews.
For.
Councillor McCann.
For.
Councillor McCready.
Against.
Councillor McIver.
For.
Councillor Morgan.
Which one?
You.
Against.
Councillor Richard Morgan.
For.
Councillor Murray.
Against.
Councillor Nwiki.
Against.
Councillor Payne.
Abstain.
Councillor Parsons.
For.
Councillor Anikit Patel.
For.
Councillor Patel.
For.
Councillor Phillip.
For.
Councillor Chris Pond.
Abstain.
Councillor Caroline Pond. Councillor Pugsley.
For.
Councillor Sharif.
Against.
Councillor Stocker. Councillor Sunga.
For.
Councillor Vaz.
For.
Councillor Chris Whitbread.
For.
Councillor Holly Whitbread.
For.
Councillor John Whitehouse.
Against.
Councillor Janet Whitehouse.
Against.
Councillor Williamson. Councillor Wixley.
For.
And Councillor Yarrell.
For.
Councillor Payne, could you just turn your microphone off for me, please?
Your microphone's
Oops.
on.
Thank you. Yes, Laura.
The vote was 32 for the officers' recommendation, 10 against and 4 abstentions.
Okay, that item has been carried, has been granted. Can we now move on to item number 14, please? Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Can I invite Councillor Wixley to present the report, the chairman of the committee? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I haven't really got much to add as far as the Overview and Scrutiny Committee is concerned. I have given regular reports of our meetings to the Cabinet Committee, and our last meeting last week on the 12th of December was actually a private meeting, a combined Overview and Scrutiny Committee plus the Cabinet, and we were discussing the budget. Now, as that was a private meeting, I can't really say much about it in the public meeting which we're in now. But I hope it was useful for the Cabinet, and I hope they took on board suggestions made by the Overview and Scrutiny Committee in respect of the budget. But that was all part of a process, and it will come back for wider discussion in public in due course.
Thank you, Councillor Wixley, for your report. Councillor Murray, do you want to speak on this?
Yep. I just want to explain to full council why I voted against having that meeting in private. We were discussing serious issues as regards the budget, and I honour the fact that it was in private now, so I won't go through what those issues were. I've been approached by numerous people to be asked what they were, but I've kept to the agreement of the meeting, though I was against it. There were certainly issues that should have been in part 2, but to have the whole of the discussion of the budget at this stage in part 2, in my view, was completely unacceptable. And just to say, well, by January, by February, everything's going to be in public, that still doesn't wash. It was a duly constituted meeting of the scrutiny panel, and I'm firmly of the belief that many of the items that we were discussing should have been and could have been in public.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Phillip.
Thank you, and I wish I could say I was surprised to hear Councillor Murray say that after all the good explanations that he got actually at Overview and Scrutiny. The key part, just so as people understand, the whole purpose of that Overview and Scrutiny meeting was balancing various different options that we have to address the budget. I will reassure Councillor Murray, and I know exactly why Councillor Murray wasn't able to make Cabinet last night. We were able, because we weren't doing a similar in-depth action there, to run the whole of that meeting in public. We didn't need to go into private session, although the leader was very clear that if we strayed into particular areas of it, at that point we would have to move into private session. But we were only able to do that because we'd had that full and frank private discussion as part of Overview and Scrutiny, which is an additional meeting that we haven't had on the budget before, which reflects the severity that we had in addressing the gap. And just because it's full council again, and people may not have heard me say it yesterday, I just want to reiterate very, very clearly, there are a lot of councils out there that either have or are close to declaring letter 114s, limiting their spending to only the absolute essentials. We, Epping Forest District Council, are not in that boat. We will produce a balanced budget. We will make contributions back into our unallocated reserves to get close to the target that we're supposed to do. We are managing that. And I thank, as I did last night, Councillor Wixie and overview and scrutiny for the work that they put in, because that really was helpful. All my colleagues were there to hear what was said, and that allows us to move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Phillip. Yeah, once again, thank you, Councillor Wixley, for that report. Item 15 is joint arrangements and external organisations. I know that Councillor Alan Kane would want to say something.
Very briefly, Chairman, I'm sorry I didn't have a report to the Council, but it was the AGM of the Royal Gunpowder Mills. And the last time we were here, I was asked by several councillors to arrange for a meeting to actually meet the new CEO. That meeting took place. We didn't have all the councillors, unfortunately, that showed interest for one reason or another. But in 2024, if anybody would like to participate or ask me, I can rearrange that meeting. And hopefully whoever came found it very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Helen Kane, for your contribution there. Okay, so item 16 is exclusion and public and press. I don't see anybody there. So, no, Laura, okay, and that just leaves me just a final thing to say, and that is those that have said they're going to come to the carol service on Thursday, it's 6:30. It just leaves me to say thank you very much for all your contributions tonight, and come and join me for a Christmas drink and a mince pie, and a Merry Christmas to you all.